It is September 480 BC. Athens is in ashes. The greatest empire the world has ever seen, 1 million soldiers strong, commanded by a god king who has never lost a war, stands poised to extinguish Western civilization before it has even begun. The Greek city-states are outnumbered, outgunned, and deeply, catastrophically divided. And yet in one single morning, in a narrow strait barely a mile wide, they will shatter the Persian Empire's greatest weapon. This is the real story behind the battle that history books reduce to a footnote. The one where a cunning Athenian general, a vain Persian king, and a narrow channel of sea conspired to change the world forever. At this point in history, Persia was the undisputed superpower of the ancient world. Under Darius I and now his son Xerxes, the Achaemenid Empire had swallowed Egypt, Babylon, and the Greek cities of Anatolia. It had never encountered a force it could not crush. Greece, by contrast, was a collection of squabbling, fiercely independent city-states: Athens, Sparta, Corinth, who spent as much time fighting each other as any foreign enemy. And yet Greece possessed something Persia did not: an idea. The idea that free men, citizens, not subjects fighting for their own homes, their own laws, their own gods, could outfight any conscript army on earth. The first Persian invasion had already been stopped at Marathon in 490 BC, a stunning Greek victory that shocked the ancient world. But Xerxes had not forgotten the humiliation. 10 years later, he returned, with an army ancient sources claim numbered in the millions. Modern historians estimate somewhere between 150 and 300,000 soldiers. Either way, an overwhelming world-ending force. This moment reshaped the balance of power not just for the ancient world, but for every civilization that would come after it. Because what was at stake at Salamis was not just Greek independence. It was the survival of democracy itself. The news reached Athens like a death sentence. Thermopylae had fallen. 300 Spartans and thousands of their allies had died holding the narrow pass, buying time. But time had run out. Xerxes' army marched into Athens and burned the Acropolis to the ground. The city was empty. The Athenians had done something almost unthinkable. They had abandoned their own city. Every man, woman, and child evacuated to the island of Salamis and the Peloponnese coast. This was the plan of one man, Themistocles. Themistocles was not a noble. He was ambitious, cunning, and often distrusted by his peers, the kind of man history tends to vindicate long after he's gone. Years earlier, when Athens discovered a rich vein of silver at the Laurian mines, every citizen expected the windfall to be distributed among the people. Themistocles convinced them instead to build a fleet. 200 triremes. The most powerful naval force Greece had ever assembled. He had read something in a Delphic oracle that others had missed. The wooden wall alone shall not fail. Themistocles argued the wooden wall was not a physical barrier. It was the fleet. Now, with Persia bearing down, that fleet was Greece's only chance. But first, he had to stop the Greeks from destroying themselves. The Persian navy was enormous. Estimates range from 600 to 1,200 warships. Phoenician, Egyptian, and Ionian crews under Xerxes' admiral Ariobanes. The Greek allied commanders were in chaos. The Spartans and Corinthians wanted to withdraw south to the Isthmus of Corinth and make a final land stand. Themistocles knew that was a death sentence. Without naval supremacy, Persia could simply land troops anywhere on the Greek coast. The Isthmus wall would be worthless. So Themistocles did something extraordinary. He sent a secret message to Xerxes. The message, carried by a trusted slave named Sisinus, told the Persian king that the Greeks were demoralized, divided, and planning to flee that very night. Xerxes should attack immediately and block the western exit of the strait to encircle them. It was a trap. Xerxes, watching from a golden throne set up on the hillside above the strait, ordered his fleet into the narrows. At dawn, the Greeks advanced. In open water, the Persian numbers would have been decisive, but in the narrow Strait of Salamis, only a fraction of their fleet could engage at any time. The rest piled up behind maneuvering blind, ramming their own ships, unable to bring their advantage to bear. The Greek trireme was a weapon of shocking violence. At ramming speed, the bronze-tipped prow could hold an enemy vessel in seconds. In the open chaos of the strait, the Greeks tore through the Persian formation like a scythe through wheat. Ariobanes, the Persian admiral, was killed early in the fighting. Ships burned. Men drowned in their armor. The Persian fleet packed into a space too small to fight collapsed into panic. Within hours, what had been the invincible naval arm of the world's greatest empire was in full retreat. Xerxes watched the entire battle from his hilltop throne. He had brought scribes to record his triumph. Instead, they recorded his disaster. According to the ancient historian Herodotus, the king tore his robes 3 times as he watched his fleet annihilated below him. The psychological impact was total. Xerxes feared that without naval control, the Greeks could sail north and destroy the bridges across the Hellespont, cutting his army off from Persia entirely. He had no choice. He retreated. He left his general Mardonius with a significant land force to continue the campaign. But Xerxes himself, the god king who had vowed to conquer Greece, turned and marched home. He never returned. The consequences were immediate. The following year, at the Battle of Plataea, the remaining Persian land forces were crushed by a united Greek army. Greece was free, but the human cost of the Persian wars was staggering. Athens had been burned to the ground. Thousands of Greeks had died at Thermopylae, at Artemisium, and in the waters of Salamis. The Athenian refugees who had abandoned their city returned to ruins. And Themistocles? The man who had saved Greece was eventually ostracized by the very city he had rescued, a victim of Athenian political jealousy. He died in Persian exile, of all places, appointed as a governor by the king he had once outwitted. History, as always, was not fair to the people who made it. What history books don't explain is just how close it came to going the other way. A Persian victory at Salamis almost certainly ends Athenian democracy before it fully flowers. No golden age. No Socrates. No Plato. No Aristotle. The philosophical tradition that would shape Roman law, Renaissance thought, and modern Western governance stillborn in a burning city. The Battle of Salamis is not just a military story. It is the story of how strategy beats numbers, how geography shapes destiny, how one man's cunning deception forced an empire's hand, and how free people, when they have no other choice, can do extraordinary things. The waters off Salamis are quiet now, but beneath their surface lies the wreckage of an empire's ambition and the proof that history can turn on a single morning. The Persian wars didn't end at Salamis, but they were decided there. If you want to understand how Athens built its empire in the decades that followed, and how that very success planted the seeds of its own destruction, that's a story we'll be telling next. If you found this deep dive valuable, like the video and subscribe. It helps more people discover the history that shaped our world.